श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं मामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् अविज्ञा परिच्छिन्न ivājñānāत् तन्नाशे सति kevalaḥ स्वयं prakāśate hyātmā meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva. Atma shines by itself. You need not put in any effort whatsoever to make the Atma to shine. It is like the sun. You do not invite the sun. You wait for the sun to come. Only the preparation on your part is to keep the window clean. If it is a glass window, keep it clean or keep it open. If you put what they call it, curtain, then you won't see the sun. So people put thick curtains and sit inside. Okay, not even a light curtain, which allows you to see through. Not even that kind of a curtain. Very thick curtain they keep. The curtain is guna, sattva-rajastamo gunas. That is the curtain. So rajoguna and tamoguna, that is the curtain. People are alternately restless and lazy. I told you this already, right? Alternately restless and lazy. Restless is rajoguna, lazy is tamoguna. That is the curtain, thick curtain. And now you don't see the Atma. You don't feel the Atma. Atma is the fullness. Atma is the kevalaḥ. It is the fullness, one without the second, and you should feel it. It is the happiness. It is the peace, absolute. Happiness, absolute. You should feel it. Instead of feeling that, we feel a general sense of unsatisfactoriness and insecurity. Look at that. This is the megha. Megha means the clouds cover up the sun. The sun is always there. The clouds cover up the sun. The clouds have to move aside. Meghāpāyeṃ. Apaya means moving aside. When the clouds move aside, there the sun shines brilliantly. So the sun of Atma is ever shining in the heart. But it's only the ignorance, the cloud of ignorance, which prevents the realization of the self. Realization is not some esoteric thing. It is very simple. You feel the fullness. I ask you one question. You answer me. When you are completely desireless, totally desireless and fearless. There must be such moments in you, in everybody. But at least you can imagine, suppose you are like that. In those moments, will you remember God? Why? You answered correctly. You won't remember God in those moments. You remember God when there is some dissatisfaction and or insecurity. At once you remember God, right? But when you are desireless and fearless, means you are not looking for any gain or reward, and you are not afraid. In those moments, you do not remember God. You know the reason? Because Tattvavidananda. That is the reason. Don't think that I am denying God. I am not denying God. I am saying you are the God. Okay? But what we do, we convert the God into a belief. So what is belief? You have ignorance, that is ajñāna, and cover the ajñāna beautifully. give a beautiful cover to the ajnana. That looks as belief. It is like the person is sick, but he then puts a safari suit. Now he looks very good. You know safari suit? Yeah, good. So the person is sick underneath. Below the suit, he is sick. He is not well. But he puts the suit and puts a lot of foundation to the face and comes into the assembly. Oh, look at him. How beautiful he is. What beautiful? He is not well. He is sick. So this is how you start with ignorance. You don't know God. You admit it. You admit, I don't know God. Not only you don't know God, nobody knows God. Because to know God is to deny God. Because God is not the known. It is the unknown and unknowable. There is beauty that you and I do not know God. And that admittance that God is unknown and unknowable will give you a chance to realize the Atma, which itself is the Godhead. Godhead, not a theistic God. Therefore, but what we do in the name of belief, you see, belief is a nice cover to ignorance. Now, when you cover the ignorance with belief, now you appear to be a privileged person that you believe in such and such God. Therefore, the blessed thing, ignorance, becomes a belief, and then it becomes a privilege, and then it becomes a organized religion. Belief becomes organized. When you organize the belief, that becomes a religion. And you subscribe to it with the hope that it will give you some sense of security. And so you now depend upon the religion, which is organized belief, which itself is covered up ignorance. You rely upon that for security. You seek security from it. That is how you become psychologically dependent on the organized belief system called religion. You should not subscribe to all that. That is not the way to realize Atma. That is not the way. Therefore, meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva. When the ignorance is set aside, that is when the sun of Atma shines. By itself, you need not make it shine, or you need not. It is not like diamond is there and you have to put some procedure to it. The diamond doesn't shine. When it is mined, it doesn't shine. Then you have to rub it and take out all the impurities. Then the diamond shines. So Atma also very impure because of this ajnana. So you have to clean it and then it shines? No. Like meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva. Amshuman is the sun. You need not clean up the sun because the clouds, they do not cover the sun. They cover your eyesight. So, ghanachanna drishtihi, ghanachanna markam. Like that there is a verse in Bhagavatam. The person's eyesight is covered by cloud. And he says, sun is covered by the cloud. Look at that. Can sun cover this cloud? Sorry, can the cloud cover the sun? Cloud cannot go anywhere near the sun. It will evaporate. It is already gas only. So the cloud covering the sun is ruled out. The cloud covers your drishti, not the sun. Even the eclipse, the topic came, that's why I'm saying, recently you had an eclipse also. The moon, it is the solar eclipse recently. Solar eclipse, let us take solar eclipse as example. The moon so blocks the sun, that is what you think. Moon doesn't block the sun. Moon blocks your vision of the sun. Do you know how far is moon? From here, moon is say 1 unit distance. Then from moon to sun, the distance is 1000 units. That far away the sun is. So you followed that? So how the moon can cover the sun? If the moon moves a little towards the sun, it will evaporate. The heat makes it evaporate. Moon cannot survive if it goes close to sun. The question of moon covering up the sun doesn't arise at all. Therefore, it is not eclipse of the sun. It is eclipse of your seeing, your vision. Atma is very similar to that. But people, they say, Surya Grahanam. It is not Surya Grahanam. It is, Are Buddhu, it is your eyesight Grahanam. That is what it is. I do not admit anything called Surya Grahanam. You tell me scientifically what is Surya Grahanam. I will accept. Otherwise, I won't accept. Because the moon covering up the sun is unthinkable. There is no such thing. It only covers your eyesight. Atma is very similar. It is ever shining, and only the ignorance, it becomes the cover. Okay? The self, the Atma, is near. Is near. It is the nearest. That's why we call it Upanishad. Upa. It is close to you. It is not far. So it is close to you. And the way to Atma is easy. It is very easy. So what should you do? You see, all you need doing is doing nothing. Okay? Do nothing. Okay? It is not about doing. Your sadhana is not about doing. Because people, they use the word sadhana. It is a good word. When Shankara used it, he called it sadhana chatushtaya. What is the sadhana there? There is no doing in that sadhana. Even some of the acharyas of the Vedanta, they talk of sadhana as some doing. Sadhana is not doing. If in Vedanta also, if sadhana is doing, then you have brought karma into Vedanta. That becomes karmajnana samuchchaya, which is against the vision of Vedanta. So there is no doing to realize the self. That doesn't mean there is no doing in life. There is doing in life because life itself is doing. There is doing, but that has nothing to do with the Atma. In fact, if you assume that you are the one who is doing, means you take yourself to be the doer, that is the megha, the cloud that covers the true self. You have to realize, you have to push aside that megha, that cloud. The cloud is the assumption or the conviction or the belief. It is not belief, it is a misconception. That is what it is. The misconception that you are the doer. Once you realize that you are not the doer, you have realized Atma. Therefore, it is not about, your sadhana is not doing. The doing happens. People don't understand. The doing happens. Children grow. We do not make them grow. They grow. Plant, outside plant, it grows or you make it grow. You go and sit there and make it grow. I will see. So you don't make it grow. It grows. No, I cook. You go and sit on the stove. Then I will understand that you are cooking. You are not cooking. The fire cooks. You don't cook. Kya baat hai? You don't cook. The fire cooks. Okay. So you don't breathe. Even breath, you don't breathe. The power inside breathes. Do you breathe? If you have to breathe, then the person, if he has to breathe, then he will be gone in no time. Okay. Therefore, you don't even breathe. You are not even responsible for the heart function. You are not a doer for anything. Doing happens. Therefore, come out of this notion that you have to do. I am doing. Now Vedanta, I have to do something more. some other thing I have to do. The doing, with a sense of doership, that is the megha, one of the meghas. Therefore, there is no doing. The sadhana is only to be. To be is the sadhana. Being is same as watching. Therefore, couple the both, sat and chit. Be watchful. Okay? So, you remember so many things except the right thing. And the right thing is that you are. You remember that. Always remember, I be. That you remember. That opens the door to the reality, because you are all the time. That is the being. Svayaṃ prakāśate hyātmā. Meghāpāyeṃ. The megha has to go out. Megha is the cloud has to move away. You see, you have to understand. I try to tell people, sometimes with a lot of frustration also I try to tell. And sometimes with some anguish also I tell. You see, I was talking with a Mahatma. He's a Acharya, with a Mahatma. So he says to me, I am the Guru and there are 100 Sishyas. I tell him, Swamiji, you are not Guru, you are Brahman. So why do you say Guru all the time? So you say you are the Guru, and that encourages them that they are the Sishyas, and therefore they remain Sishyas forever. I remember an example. When I was in college, our college sports team has a basketball team in the college. And there was one H.W. Longfellow in the basketball, and he was my classmate. So BSc first year, second year, third year. And even if you fail, you can go forward. So he failed in BSc first year, but he comes into the second year. He fails in the second year, but he comes into the third year. He fails into the third year. He wants to go home, but the college doesn't allow him to go home. They give a sports scholarship to him and ask him to study BSc third year one more time, because he is the important person in the basketball team. Okay, then I passed BSc and I went to MSc. I passed MSc first year, passed MSc second year. Then unexpectedly I went to the college. He is still in the BSc third year only. He doesn't leave it because he is a member of the basketball team. Okay, he should not pass that exam. If he passes the exam, anyway he doesn't pass. Fortunately, he doesn't pass. If he passes the exam, the team is gone. Similarly, the Sishyas, they don't want to learn anything. Because if they learn, then they are not Sishyas anymore. They want to be Sishyas, the perennial Sishyas, perpetual Sishyas. They remain Sishyas. Are you are Shishya for 20 years, they proudly say, I am a Shishya for 20 years. Good. By now you must have learned, no. I am Shishya only. So I told that Mahatma, why do you assert what you are not? Why, stop asserting what you are not. Stop asserting that. You stop asserting, I am Guru, I am Guru, I am Guru. Then they will stop asserting, I am Shishya, I am Shishya, I am Shishya. Okay? Did you see this Guru Shishya in Gita anywhere? Did you see that language? The language is problematic, that's why I am telling. In Upanishad, any Upanishad, do you have the Guru Shishya words? Kena Upanishad is there. Shishya uvacha, kene shitam patati. Do you find it like that? No, you don't find it like that. You find it as kene shitam patati. Someone, we don't know what is his name, he wants to learn and he asks a question. In India, about spirituality, people miss this point. In the context of spirituality, there is only a discussion and a dialogue. All questions only they are there. It is not about offering a God on a platter to be worshipped by the students. It is not like that. Always questions are asked, answers are given. And the questions are about moksha and Atma. And by the time you understand what is moksha, what is Atma, that includes the understanding of God also. There is a rule in Upanishads. This is the rule of the Upanishads, the doctrine of the Upanishads. You start near, you go far. You start far, you go nowhere. That's why our worship of a God in Vaikuntha, it takes us nowhere. Whereas our effort to know the self within takes you to Brahmanhood. Therefore, I told the Mahatma, why do you assert like that? Don't assert yourself. You assert, I am Guru, I am Guru, I am Guru. They assert, I am Shishya, I am Shishya, I am Shishya. Up to a point of time, that looks all right. Then they will assert, I am a father, father, father. Array, you have come to Vedanta class as a father, you have come to Vedanta class. Array, as a jignasu, you have come to Vedanta class. All the students are fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, wives, husbands, divorced people. They all come to the Vedanta class. Jignasu, you see, one Mahatma told me, I went to the temple. There are 100 people, but not one of them is a bhakta. There is no devotee. Because all petitioners, desirers, people who are afraid, all of them are there in the temple. Not one who loves God for the sake of love. That is the bhakta. So you don't find bhaktas in the temple. You don't find learning students in the Vedanta class. It is like you don't find Indians in India. Because we have Punjabis, Madrasi, Brahmana, Kshatriya, so all people we have, but not an Indian. You don't find any Indian. Therefore, this is the the cover, that you assert what you are not. You examine this issue. This evening, Atma Vichara is this only. You assert yourself to be what you are not, and deny yourself to be what you are. Make a beginning from now on. I am a jignasu. Start the beginning there. Athato Brahma Jijnasa. Start there. You tell yourself, I tell like this, I will stand at the gate before you are allowed to enter. And at the gate I will ask you, at the door I will ask you, who are you? I am the father of 2 children. You are not allowed inside the class. This is not for you. Go home. Some next person, who are you? I am a jignasu. Go inside. I am the mother of 2 children. No, you are not given permission. I am jignasu. You come in. So, the day you look at yourself as jignasu, the learning of the truth is not far away. Because every time you assert yourself to be what you are not. You see, you may ask, suppose I am saying this father of 2 children so many times, so I think I have to explain myself, that is in order. So, you see, you don't be a father of 2 children. There is a problem in that. You should know. The other day, I have seen an interesting scene. A child, 4-year-old, boy or girl, some nice child, very good looking child. And then the person asked, do you love your father? Somebody asked to the child. Father is in the audience. The child said no. Very embarrassing. The person who asked is embarrassed, and the entire audience is embarrassed. But then came the saving grace. Without asking, the child continued and said, I love my dad. You see? Did you know the difference between father and dad? Father is an assertion which is unnecessary. Dad is the love. Love. Therefore, don't assert, I am father, I am father, I am father. Be the love of the father. Okay? So, one husband and wife are quarreling. And they asked my advice. The lady asked my advice. So generally, what advice I can give? Because if I can be successful in family life, I would have remained in life. So I gave up and came on to the street. That means there must be, I'm not a successful family person. That is very obvious what kind of advice I can give. But still I made an attempt. So from today onwards, don't be a wife. Be the love of a wife. Because when you say wife, that is assertion. Whereas in love, there is no assertion. And so probably you are asserting more and the love became less. Stop asserting and see what happens to the love. It will improve. So then I happened to meet the husband also. I told him, don't be a husband to the wife. Be the love of a husband. That is better. Because especially in some cultural contexts, the word husband comes with an enormous conditioning, particularly in India, in South India maybe, in Tamil Nadu even worse. Among Tamil Nadu Brahmins, it is the worst. It comes with enormous conditioning. Husband means he has to control. If he doesn't control, then the father, mother, brothers, sisters, all of them will look askance at him. Hey, already he became a slave to her. If he is controlling her, all of them are proud. Look at our boy. So much conditioning comes along with that expression husband. It is a patriarchal society. That leads to a lot of conflict. That stands like a megha cover between the two between the couple. Therefore, don't assert, I am your husband. Don't assert. Generally, one may not assert, I am your husband. That is not the way they assert. I am saying that way. But people do assert. So, even in a given relationship, if you want the relationship to flower, you should stop asserting the status of that relationship. Replace the assertion with love. Then the relationship will flourish. So in life, this Atmajnana, how it will come? When you are asserting, so what you are not. So, you see, unless you admit your connect to that chit, that knowing element in you, unless you admit that connect, you will not know Atma. You have to admit you are connected to that chit. I will explain it to you a little, just you pay attention to this. You see, you are watching a movie. Okay, that is an experience, right? An hour and a half, that is an experience. Now, in that experience, there is a dipole. The experiencer inside and the experienced outside. That is the dipole. The dipole makes it an experience. And what is the experienced? Whatever is outside, that is the experienced. Who is the experiencer? The mind. It is the mind which is the experiencer. Okay? Therefore, an experience is the construct of the experiencer, which is a state of mind, and the experienced, whatever it is, outside. Generally, The experienced is one of the Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha. Audio visual. You go to the movie, audio visual. That becomes Shabda, audio visual, Shabda Sparsha. In Hollywood, I don't know whether you know it or not. Just I had noticed it, therefore I am bringing to your notice. On the screen, when the villain fires the gun, you smell gunpowder in the hall. Really. Therefore, they have added audio visual now. Nose also they have added. And when the hero and heroine are in the park, where there are many flowers, some roses, etc., you get rose scent in the hall. Really, there is a theater like that in Los Angeles. I was there in the theater. And so there is a gun, and you smell gunpowder. And there is roses, you smell roses. So they have added one more. Generally, it is audio-visual. Okay, but then that is the experience. Whatever the experienced, I have digressed. The experienced is mostly Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha. That is what it is. The experiencer is always the mind. And this dipole is the construct of every experience. Okay? Now, how we live, we are immersed in that experience, in the experience, one after the other, immersed. We forget that there is a light within, the chit, without which no experience is possible ever. We forget that light within. Why do we forget? Because we are absorbed in the experiences. You follow? So you are eating, it's an experience, you are absorbed in it. So you are relating with a person in a relationship. It could be marriage or it could be father, son, etc. That is an experience. You are absorbed in it. This is how we are caught. This is the megha. We are caught in the multiple experiences and we are totally absorbed in that experience consisting of the dipole. And we totally forget that this experience is made possible by that inner light, that chit within you. You can experience that chit. I will give you an example. Suppose you are watching the movie, you are oblivious of that chit because you are absorbed in the experience. That experience is created. You are oblivious of the chit. Okay? Suppose the current goes, current, we call it current, okay? Electricity in India, we call it current. And so we have outages also. Okay, here you don't know all that. So suddenly the power is off. And the cinema, we call it cinema, okay? Here they call it movie, but we call it cinema. The movie, it comes to a halt, abrupt halt. And now that is the experience. What is the experience? There is darkness outside, and the mind experiencer is stunned and it is disappointed, and you are aware of all of that. Right? You are aware of the inner disappointment. You are aware of the outer darkness, right? You are not that much absorbed in this new experience. You get a connect to the chit behind this new experience. You followed that? Then suddenly power comes again. And the movie starts. You get disconnected from the chit and get absorbed in the movie experience once again. Followed that? You go to the mammoth cave. You are inside and it is dark. They call it pitch dark. It is something like if you are put in molten tar in a drum, how dark it will be. It is so dark. And therefore the experienced is darkness. Mind is the experiencer. But you are aware of this very unusual experience. You are aware. You are not absorbed in that experience. That is also an experience. That you are unable to see anything outside, it is all darkness, that is also an experience. But somehow you are not that much absorbed in that experience. And therefore, unbeknownst to you, you step back from the experience. And now the experiencer experienced dipole, it moves aside. And the experience is put aside, kind of. And you become connected to the inner chit. Okay? Therefore, the point is, don't be absorbed so much in the experiences of the world. Develop some vairagya. Step back from the very experience and become aware of your own awareness, the inner light. That is how you have to connect to the inner self. That is the only way to realize your Swarupa, which is Atma. Shankara has addressed this issue. So, meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva. The cover has to be set aside. The curtain has to be pulled aside. So, you see, there was a prince, but he was kidnapped. This is Shankara's story. This story you can see in Lion King, movie made by Walt Disney. This story means not that exactly the storyline. The storyline you can see in the Lion King. There is a thing called storyline. They take a storyline and make a marvelous picture out of that. Just to take a storyline. So the other day I was telling a group of people, now I am telling you how I am digressing. Is it okay if I digress a little? You see, there is in India, there is a movie, the Bollywood movie director in our childhood days. I think his name is Madan Mohan Desai. He made the movie Sholay. Manmohan Desai. Sholay he made. He was the director of Sholay. Sholay was an all-time world record breaker. There is no movie like Sholay as far as the box office collection records are concerned. All-time record it is. And even now it is still running. One theatre is earmarked for Sholay. Whenever in Bombay, whenever you go there, Sholay only will be running in the theatre. 3 shows. And people see it. Even now. What is Sholay movie? All of you must be knowing it. It is only this much. Vishwamitra Maharshi in Ramayana, Valmiki's Ramayana, goes to Ayodhya and approaches Dasharatha Maharaja and takes Rama Lakshman. In the Sholay also they are Ram Lakhan. Rama and Lakshmana, he asks them and he takes possession of them and takes these two Rama and Lakshmana to the forest. And in the forest there are Rakshasas who are creating havoc in that community among those people by doing all kinds of mischief and destroying everything. And this Rama and Lakshmana in Ramayana go to the forest, kill all those Rakshasas, and then get married to Rama to Sita and Lakshmana to Urmila. And Vishwamitra goes his way. They came home. That is the story, right? Manmohan Desai took this story. That is the storyline. And he made this Sholay. That is how the storyline works. Just take one line of this storyline and it appealed to the Indian audience like nothing else. Because that Ramayana is in their hearts. And this storyline, it just fits with the Ramayana, a small part of Ramayana. And the Indian audiences, they understood it. Villages, they need not be educated. The entire India saw that movie. That is how. Therefore, I have digressed. So this is the storyline of Shankara. And Walt Disney, I was told he was a philosopher. He is not a businessman alone. He was a philosopher. He studied Vedanta. And he was inspired by Advaita. And he incorporated into the movie Lion King. The Shankara's storyline is this much. A prince was kidnapped from the cradle. So some dacoit has kidnapped the prince from the cradle and took to the forest where he lives, the dacoit. And dacoit's mother did not agree for this ransom and all that. Dacoit's wife, because she did not have children, she wanted this child, very beautiful and a prince. So I want this child. Don't send any ransom note and all that. If you ask for ransom, you get money and you have to give back the child. She said, no ransom now. Now even the dacoit has to follow his wife's request or command, whatever you call it, and therefore no ransom. The king was waiting and waiting and waiting. No ransom demand came. The king lost the heart. He became desperate, and then conveniently everybody forgot. Now this boy was brought up by the dacoit chief and his wife. So he became young. And now he is the inheritor of that empire, of that mafia kingdom. He inherits it. Okay? And the elderly dacoit, the original dacoit, he became old. Now he cannot ride the horse and all that. Like some of these mafia dons are there, you know. You know the names also. Therefore, the young prince, he is not the prince, he is the head of the dacoit gang. So he came to the kingdom. Again, one more time he came to the king's palace to steal, just like his father did, to take away something. And then this time he was caught. He was not experienced, so he was caught. And the minister recognized he is not the dacoit. He made a few inquiries of those people who were caught, and he put them in the cells and made some inquiries. So what they call, under duress, you ask questions and they have to answer. Okay? So interrogation. And then the beans were spilled, and the minister knew that this is the prince. He was in the cell. He went there and examined him. He is the prince. All features of the face, etc. He is the prince. But brought up by the dacoit family, in the group of dacoits. He tells the prince, you are the prince. You are not a dacoit. The prince says, I cannot believe. The minister, with the wise man, so he says, that is the guru. Okay? So he says, you are the prince, and he proves to him. So the marks, this and that. So the prince says, but I agree with you. I am the prince. I agree with you. But I don't feel like that I am the prince. I feel like I am dacoit only. So how to overcome this problem? That is our situation. Then the minister told him, the only way to overcome this problem is, this you can find in Lion King also. There also the lion doesn't believe in itself. It believes it was a sinner. That is how the lion believes. And then it was advised by a guru-like animal that you are not a sinner, you are the real king, like that. You see, you know that story. So here also, the minister advises the prince, you are the prince. I cannot feel that, I am not feeling that I am the prince. Okay, let us do one thing. You behave like a prince. Kind of fake it to make it, but it is not faking here. I did not like that expression, fake it to make it, because there is no fake involved here. It is not fake. If it is fake and you follow it, then you make it, that expression fits. But there is no fake here. It is satyam. Therefore, you behave like a prince. So you may not feel like a prince, but start behaving like a prince and see what happens. You behave like a prince. And so okay, let us start. So the doors of the cell are opened. The minister said, you lead the way. You are the prince. I have to follow you. And the prince is walking and the minister follows. The jail superintendent follows. And then he walks out of the jail. And then he sits in a chariot and goes to the palace. And he gets down from the chariot as advised by the minister. And he walks into the palace. And the minister is following. There he found, as he goes into the inner quarters, he found a pratima, a beautiful lady's figure made of gold and studded with diamonds. And he looks at it and feels like stealing. The minister was observing him. You need not steal it because it is your own. Oh yeah, I forgot. So he goes inside the inner quarters. The lunch is, food is served, put on the table. You are the master, sit at the head of the table and command whatever you want. Then go to the inner quarters and live there. You are the prince. Behave like a prince for a day. Next day morning, you wake up, still feeling like a dacoit. But then remember that you are the prince. The third day morning, you wake up. Now this time you don't feel that much like a dacoit. And the fourth day morning, you wake up as a prince. I don't call it fake it to make it. I call it make the real. You own the reality. So, therefore, you behave as if you are all existence. First you become a human being. Go beyond all limitations of caste, creed, race, religion. Go beyond that. Be Brahman. And then go beyond time. This I have explained already. Step out of the net of time. And then step out of the net of space also. Don't identify with the space. I am a Californian. I am a New Yorker. That kind of a thing is not there in this country much. They may casually say like that. Whereas in India it is there very much. South Indian versus North Indian. Punjabi versus Madrasi. It is always there. Now it is a bit less, I suppose. But it was there. Maybe it is there even now to some extent. So you behave as if you step out of space also. You step out of the net of time. You step out of space. And begin with a human being. I am a human being. Because in human being, there is the Brahma there, being. Being is the Brahma. Human is the conditioning, the megha. At least somewhat lot better, Human is the conditioning. Because you have 2 hands and 2 legs, therefore you are human being. Whereas 4-legged being is the animal. 2-legged being is the human being. That human being is a beautiful expression. Very beautiful expression. Like Naraha in Sanskrit. Naraha. Do you know? Nara and Narayana are together. You know that? They are not separate. Interestingly, if you read the Purana story, Nara and Narayana happened to be the same incarnation, not 2 incarnations. They are together one incarnation, Nara and Narayana. So they are one, outwardly 2, but really 1. So you start as a human being, step out of the net of time, net of space, and discover your fullness. So, this is how a prince who believes himself to be a beggar, a dacoit, whatever, can be convinced conclusively in only one way. That is, he must behave as a prince and see what happens. Okay? Because you behave as if you are the universal, not the particular, not the personal. You are the universal. Behave as if you are the universal. And just see what happens. Meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva. So the megha moves aside and Atma shines brilliantly. So, you see, this megha stands for darkness, the darkness that covers up the sun, apparently. So what is the darkness in life? That is the example, but in the actual topic, the darkness is self-forgetfulness. So when you get absorbed in the things of the world, which is non-self, you forget yourself. You see, you understand this. Suppose you say sofa. Suppose you say sofa. Means you are the knowing element and this object has become evident in your light of awareness when you say sofa. Okay? Now, where is the sofa now? It is shining in your consciousness. That is the sofa. You think it is outside. If it is outside, then how do you say it is sofa? It is not outside. It is loaded into your consciousness. Then only you can say it is sofa, right? So when you say it is sofa or is it sofa consciousness? It is sofa consciousness, right? So in the dream thing is also coming in the next verse. In the dream, you see a mountain. Is it mountain or mountain consciousness? It is mountain consciousness. Same thing in the waking state also. Therefore, when you say sofa, it is sofa consciousness. Okay? And now you say, my sofa. Then, sir, you become the sofa. Don't you see that? You become the sofa. So are you the sofa? No. Then why do you say my sofa? Therefore, when you say my sofa, you have become the sofa. And without becoming the sofa, you cannot say my sofa. This is the self-forgetfulness. Now you have put the self to the sofa. And so, this is the darkness, self-forgetfulness. When you get absorbed in the non-self, you forget the self. And that self-forgetfulness is the darkness. So, therefore, you should ask one question. Why should I forget the self? Why should I have so much attachment to the things of the world to the point that I forget the self itself? What kind of attachment it is? I will discuss this attachment further. Therefore, it is because of the attachment that we get absorbed in the non-self to the point that we forget the self. Therefore, wisdom lies in never forgetting the self. Wisdom lies there. Suppose you see a rose, beautiful, you say. Now, what is beautiful, sir? The rose outside is beautiful. Then you have to say that is called physical beauty, which is not a beauty at all. The rose outside is beautiful? No. The rose outside, it is in the consciousness now. So, the consciousness is beautiful, not the rose. The consciousness is beautiful. The Atma is beautiful. You are beautiful. That's why rose appears beautiful to you. But suppose, for some reason, your beauty is covered by megha. Somebody calls you and you hear something unpleasant, the stock market dipped, whatever, and so then you look at the rose. Does it look beautiful to you? It doesn't look beautiful. At that time, if somebody comes and says, sir, look at this very beautiful rose, you will say, get out from here. Because it doesn't look beautiful to you. You see, one time what happened, there was a connoisseur. of music. Some of these people, they're music-loving people, Carnatic music. And so he invited a troupe, the vocalist and accompaniments, a half a dozen people troupe, and arranged a musical concert, music concert. It's a big thing it is, and a lot of money also you have to spend. And so he was sitting, because he pays the bill, So he was sitting in the first row in a sofa and listening to the music. So it begins with Vātāpi Ganapatim Bhaja, etc. It begins and it goes on and on and on for 2.5 hours. It is going on. Then in the meanwhile, a phone call came to him. He gives the phone unnecessarily in the pocket, and so it says ting, means some message came. And so he pulls it out. He can see it later, He is listening to the music. But the samsaris are samsaris. So he pulls out the phone and looks at the message. And all his love for the music has evaporated. He cannot sit there anymore. He waited. He thought, if I leave abruptly, it may not look nice. And he paid so much to get the concert arranged. But he could not sit there because the music sounds like a shrieking. It sounds very, very harsh. It doesn't sound melodious anymore. And then he abruptly gets up and walks away. And the music singing person, he is very disappointed that the boss has gone away. So the whole concert was spoiled. Why? Because the megha has come in the way. Because it is the self which is musical, not the music. It is the self. The Mozart defined music as the real music is the silence between the notes. That is the definition given to music by Mozart. And what is that silence? Silence between the notes, what is it? That is your Atma. Therefore, your Atma is, you are connected with the Atma, and then music is connected with the Atma. The silence between the notes is the Atma, and that is the happiness. Therefore, and for some reason, if that Atma is covered up, then the music is not enjoyable anymore. So, it is not the rose which is beautiful, it is you who are beautiful. It is not the music that is enjoyable, it is you that is the enjoyment. And so, you, whatever you are, whatever beauty you see outside, it is reflected beauty. Your beauty is reflected, and that appears beautiful. Your joy is reflected, that the music appears enjoyable. So it is not the music, it is not the rose, it is you. So you have to understand yourself correctly. So when this darkness called ignorance, it intervenes, so you forget yourself. So forgetting yourself, that is the darkness of ignorance, it prevails. That is the greatest injury. All calamities in life flow from that darkness of ignorance. All calamities. You see, you have to take care of the most important first. The lesser will take care of itself. You first take care of the most important, which is the darkness of ignorance in the heart. First take care of it. That is the most important thing. The lesser things, what will happen to family? What will happen to my job? Nothing will happen. The things happen, the natural thing happens naturally. All doing happens. Doing is not in clash with knowing. Because doing element is different, knowing element is different. Doing element is prakriti, that is the body-mind. Knowing element is chit, that is the Atma. They are not in clash with each other. Therefore, take care of the most important. The lesser will take care of itself. You see, suppose you have a dark room. You do not tidy up a dark room. First you open the windows and allow the light to come inside. then you can do anything with that room. You can tidy up and then you can furnish it. Whatever, so becomes easy. Letting light inside makes everything easy. So similarly, the first priority must be realizing the self. Okay? So let us finish that second line. Atma, the self, Svayaṃ by itself, prakāśate, shining or shines. Like what? You say that also. Like what? Meghāpāyeṃ. As the cloud moves aside, ivājñānānattannāśe, like the sun. So the cloud has to move aside. And so the darkness which is inside, that ignorance, that has to move aside. So I'll give you a practical way of looking at it. You see, the self-realization, realizing the self is primarily the knowledge of your conditioning. The conditioning that you have about yourself, the knowledge of that conditioning. And so there is a infinite ability in the human being. There is infinite ability to be conditioned. That is the Maya. Maya is infinite, you know. The variety that the Maya can produce is infinite. So there is we are prone to be conditioned in a variety of ways. Like for example, somebody says, I do not feel self-confident. That is a conditioning. Somebody says, I am anxious. That is a conditioning. Somebody says, my wife quarrels with me and therefore I am unhappy. That is conditioning. People have, my children are not cooperating with me. That is somebody else's conditioning. Gurus are also conditioned. My shishyas are not cooperating with me. So much of conditioning is possible. The rich are conditioned, the poor are conditioned, the powerful are conditioned, the powerless are conditioned. And there is a infinite variety of conditioning. And so you look into your heart and see what kind of conditioning you have. The knowledge of conditioning, one's own conditioning, that knowledge, that is the self-realization. Because once you realize, this is how I am conditioned, you are free from that conditioning. Okay? You see, this I was saying the other day also, once I notice that I am stupid, I am no more stupid. Really. You see, once I was doing something, and it was wrong, and somebody told me, why you are going up that thing? Why you are pursuing it? You are climbing up the wrong tree. That is not the right one. First, the ego doesn't like it. The ego comes in the way. Oh, who is he to tell me? Like that. But then I heard what he said. The ego wanted to retort. But then I said, oh, ego, you keep quiet for a while. So it kept quiet. If you ask it to keep quiet, it keeps quiet. And then I examined. Yes, I was wrong. I was stupid to pursue that path. Now what am I? Now am I wrong or am I wise? Am I stupid or am I wise? I am wise. That is how it is. So there is a nice story about Shankara. Shankara is walking and somebody came, a low caste person came ahead. That is how they say the story. Then he tried to avoid him because he is of low caste. Then that person asked, why are you avoiding me? Because I am of low caste, you are high caste. You tell me, caste belongs to the body or to the Atma? That is the other person asked. Then Shankara said, you are my guru. I have learned. You are my guru. Chandalostu satudvijostu gururityesha manisha mama. You are my guru. Swami Ranganathananda wrote a small book on this topic. On this story, he wrote a small book. Therefore, when you realize that you are stupid, and if you can keep the ego out of the way, that you should be able to do, the meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva, then you are not stupid anymore. Suppose when you realize the limitations of the body, you realize, you are not limited anymore. You are freedom from those limitations. Right? Suppose I go for a walk. At one time I used to jog. I used to do jogging. But nowadays I am only walking briskly because I found I cannot jog. That is not comfortable to me. So I am now aware of the limitation. When I am aware of the limitation, am I not free from that limitation? I am free from that limitation. The limitation that I cannot jog, does it bother me? No, because I am free from that limitation. Therefore, when you are aware of your limitation, you are free from it. And when you are aware of your conditioning, you are free from it. This is how you have to perseveringly push away the megha, the darkness that is coming in the way. You should do that. And that there is no doing in it. Urga expression is like that, but it is all the indoing. Hinduism is induism, it is. So you do all that within, that antarmukha, you have to do that. So, you see, why we put so much emphasis on this self-knowledge, because this is the gospel of self-realization. That is the gospel. This gospel, once you hear, you will never forget it. It is like a seed left in the ground. You just leave a seed in the ground. And it will wait, the seed will wait for the right season and sprout and grow into a mighty tree. Similarly, this gospel of self-realization, it will not vanish. It is already planted in the heart, and it will sprout and grow when the right time comes. So generally, the advice given is, anything you do for the sake of self-realization will take you nearer to the truth. And anything you do without remembering that enlightenment, that self-realization, puts you off from self-realization. That's why, suppose, to give an example, there are nitya naimittika karmas and kamya karmas. And the more the kamya karmas you do, the more the self-realization is put off. The more you give up the kamya karmas and just stick yourself to nitya naimittika karmas, the nearer you go to self-realization. Suppose you make self-realization as the goal, then certain things you don't do. Like somebody has done some mischief against you, and now you don't file a lawsuit against him or her because your goal is self-realization. You don't do that. Even though he has done injustice to you, you just accept it, endure it, and bless. But you don't want to take revenge. You bless the other person. Because whatever you do as a reaction to what the other person did, Whatever you do as a reaction puts you off from self-realization. But every single time you bless your enemy, you love your enemy. There are no enemies, really speaking, but there can be an opinion or a notion that he is my enemy, he has wronged me, he is my adversary. That kind of notion people do have, and that remains in the psyche or in the consciousness for years together. And that puts you off from self-realization. You see, now I am concluding the class, coming to the end of it slowly. So, you just see, suppose you take a knife and hit on the stone. A line will form on the stone. And it will take 10,000 years for that line to become smooth. Okay? Take the same knife and hit the sand. A line will form. And it will take 1 full day or 2 days for that line to be smoothened. The wind comes, sand particles blow, and the line will disappear after 2 days. Okay? If you hit water with this knife, a line will form. Line will form with water also. Water surface is like a stretched membrane. There is a thing called surface tension. And so a line will form. But that line takes a fraction of a second to be smoothened by the water flowing there. Okay? And if you hit the air with the knife, a line will form. But it will instantly get smoothened and you don't even see the line. And if you hit the space with the knife, even line will not form. Mahatmas are like that. There are no adversaries. Nobody can hurt me. Nobody can insult me. Nobody can harm me. Because I am beyond all these things. So achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo shoshya evacha. I am the one who cannot be cut asunder, who cannot be drowned and killed, who cannot be burnt. You know that verse. Nainam chandanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, nachainam kledayantyapaha, na shoshayati marutaha. That is what I am. So, therefore, you have to move in the right direction, and you have to discover your true nature. So, and first and foremost, you have to understand that it is a grievous mistake to identify with the external. You should not do that mistake. Stop doing that mistake. Don't identify with the external. And always remember the chit quality of yourself. And you are the Brahman. I don't even have an iota of doubt that you are Brahman here and now. And that is your birthright. Freedom is my birthright, said Balagangadhara Tilak. Not in the context of freedom struggle. It was brought to freedom struggle. But he said that in the context of his commentary on Gita. Gita Rahasyam, his commentary, there he said, freedom is my birthright. That he has adopted in the freedom struggle. Therefore, that way you have to look at it. Now let us finish that verse. We are done with that verse. Avacchinna ivājñānāttannāśe sati kevalaḥ Svayaṃ prakāśate hyātmā meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva. Can we ask Brahma Sutrani and Vishnu Sahasranama clarifications in this satsanga? No. I say, Atmanugraham, Atmarpanamastu. Instead of saying Ishvaranugraham, Ishvararpanamastu. Both are same. Both are same. Generally, we do not say Ishvara Jnanam, Atma Bhakti. We do not say that. Both are same, but that is not the language. The language is Ishvara Bhakti, Atma Bodha. Therefore, when you are say Anugraham and Arpanamastu, it is not Atma, it is Ishvara. Okay? Because you have that sense of duality, even though provisional and a little, but still it is Sagunopasana, and therefore the sense of dualism is there in a provisional way, in a small way. And therefore, you cannot say Atmarpanamastu. You have to say Shri Krishna Arpanamastu or Ishvara Arpanamastu. And when it comes to Anugraham, you have to say Ishvara Anugraham only, not Atma Anugraham. So, you do not tune the language that way. You do not tune even the buddhi that way. Because that is the context of Ishvara, Saguna Upasana. So, keep it that way only. Mentioned karma, upasana, yoga do not lead to moksha. Good. But having practiced over a long time, it is hard to suddenly stop these practices. Knowing that jnanam is the only way to moksha, can we continue the other modes for chitta shuddhi? Although we are aware that it does not lead to moksha by itself. You see, the answer is no. So you have to look at it. Karma. So just now we have said any karma that strengthens the darkness of ignorance, you have to put it aside. All, you see, karmas are, I will answer this question and then we will conclude. Karmas are 5 types. Okay? That covers the entire spectrum. Coming from behind, so nishiddha karma, prohibited action, you don't do that. Prayaschitta karma, atonement action, you need not do that. You have to do prayaschitta only when you do nishiddha. When you don't do nishiddha, you need not do prayaschitta. Okay? So when you don't say harsh words to the other person, you need not seek forgiveness. So no atonement is required. Then kamya karma, you give up. Lock, stock and barrel. All kamya karmas you give up. In giving up kamya karmas, you give up kama, desire. In giving up desire, you discover your inner self as the desirelessness. Atma is akamaha. That is what Atma is. Therefore, that you have taken a giant step towards self-realization. Nitya naimittika, they stay. They happen. They happen. As a family person, you are supposed to do a few things and you do them. And as an employee, you are supposed to do a few things, you do them. In fact, instead of saying you do them, you allow them to happen. That is what it is. It is not about the language. You get the spirit of it. So, Nitya Naimittika, they continue. So, out of 5, 3 are left out and 2 remain. Okay? Then Upasana. All Upasanas which are rooted in dualism, you have to give up. And especially these Upasanas which came in recent times are very dualistic. And they are entirely based on organized belief systems. That is the kind of upasana. You don't need that upasana. Organized belief system is presented as an upasana. You don't need it. You need only one upasana. That is Saguna Brahma Upasana. So please listen to Vishnu Sahasranama classes which were done recently. The name Dhata, the name Ishvaraha, the name Vishnu, like that if you see, I have pointed out which are jnanam names and which are upasana names. You need that upasana, that kind of upasana, in which there is an element of dualism, but it is in the direction of non-dual. Yeah.
There is a word used in this question which says chitta shuddhi. What karma we are talking about that does not bring chitta shuddhi.
Yeah. So this notion that karma leads to chitta shuddhi has to be examined. It is not karma which leads to chitta shuddhi. It is the desirelessness of the chitta which leads to chitta shuddhi. Okay? So you see, if you take a dirty cloth and beat it with a stick, it won't become pure. You soak it in water, it becomes pure. So you soak the mind in desirelessness, in the love of God, then it becomes pure, not by doing. So Nitya Naimittika you do. So then upasana, all the dualistic upasanas, you should give up. You should not pay much attention to them. Rama is in the heart, as the innermost self. Worship Shri Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama. Do that upasana. The rising sun is Brahma, that is Ishvara. And chant Gayatri mantra, and you give arghyam if you can, and do that upasana. Otherwise, Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva is in the heart as the innermost self. Do that upasana. That is enough. Why do you want to Uchishta Ganapati, Chindi, Chamundi, otherwise Prachangira, Patala Prachangira? Why you need all these things? You don't need all these things. Rama is enough. Rama is Ananda Swarupa, is enough. Study Valmiki Ramayana and pursue Rama Upasana. That is enough. That kind of Upasana you have to pursue. Then yoga. Yoga, you see, only asana pranayama, that is enough. You don't bother about pratyahara dharana, dhyana samadhi. That is all dualistic and the doctrine itself is not suitable. Why you want all that? Where do you have time for all these things? So, but you don't give up asana and pranayama. Do some asanas. All that bends well, ends well. Okay, so you bend, the back should bend, the knees should not bend, the neck should bend this side, that side. And so you do all these asanas, okay? And then do pranayama also, sarala pranayama. And that helps you keep the organism in good condition. That is a precondition for moksha, for self-realization. So this is how I look at it. Therefore, you have to prune, pruning, you have to prune your field of activity and also mental worship. You have to prune it, make it simple, focused, and taking you in the direction of self-realization. And you will be blessed. You will get a lot of freedom from this exhaustive, so much of exertion. Work is not easy. You get fatigued by all this work. You don't need all that fatigue, that mental fatigue. So, that is the answer. Very nice. Om Purnamada Purnamidam.